Winds swirling above T. Boone Pickens Stadium here in Stillwater. Kansas State and Oklahoma State ready to meet for the 64th time. Mike Gundy joked with us yesterday. There's more pressure on him to maintain the hair than there is to win football games these days, of course.
That's a beauty, man.
The Arkansas waterfall in all its glory, and in all his glory, Bill Snyder, 78 years young, in his 26th season between two stints as the head coach at Kansas State. Weather today involves 25-mile-per-hour winds. It's 59 degrees. Temperature is nice. Feels a little cooler with the wind, but that's something both of these teams are used to, especially this time of the year. The Cowboys won the toss. They defer. Kansas State will receive. And it's Dominic Heath on kick returns. DJ Reed, the ace kick returner for the Wildcats, did not warm up. We have been told he is not playing. No reason was given. And Kansas State will begin just inside its own 30. Skylar Thompson, the third quarterback that Kansas State has used this season. Jesse Ertz, coming off a season in which he threw for 1,500 yards and ran for more than 1,000, suffered a knee injury against Texas. So enter Alex Delton, who started 4 games but missed his second half of the last 2 starts with a head injury. And then Skylar Thompson, who worked in relief of Delton a couple of times, started last week in a loss to West Virginia. And joining Thompson in the backfield, Alex Barnes, who's been banged up as well, limited to just 3 carries a week ago. Thompson, quarterback run, and with a nice gain across the 35, a pickup of 8. It sets up a 2nd and 2. And Ahmad, with Skylar Thompson, you want to see more decisiveness.
Well, absolutely. And I want to see more designed quarterback runs. They start there with the quarterback power right up the middle and take it right to the Cowboys defense.
The give is to Barnes, and he runs into a roadblock, no gain. It sets up 3rd down. Impact players when Kansas State has the ball, Ahmad.
Wide receiver Byron Pringle. He reaches top-end speed quickly, has the size and speed to attack the deep field. And then Winston Dimmel, one of my favorite players. He's a force as a run blocker with knockout capability, and defensively, the hard-nosed and physically, mentally tough Chad Whitener, who's tough enough to support in the run. And Brelford is also a guy that moves well once in the opposing team's backfield.
Wildcats were just 2 of 15 on 3rd down last week. Thompson looking for running room. Has the edge, has a 1st down and more. Into Oklahoma State territory, finally driven out of bounds by Jordan Brelford.
This is a very, very positive start for the Wildcats. The creativity. He wants to go initially to his left. Nothing's there. Well defended by the Cowboys. But the creativity of the young quarterback making his 2nd start in Thompson to hit the outside edge and pick up the 1st down. Outstanding play by the quarterback.
Bill Snyder felt Thompson would be better this week. Doesn't have the nerves, the pressure after having his first career start last week in Manhattan. Barnes breaks a couple of tackles and then finally bumped out of bounds by DeQuinton Osborne, a gain of 4. And the ground game working early for Kansas State. Back to the ground, it's Barnes. And he torpedoes ahead for a 1st down, a gain of 7. Alex Barnes, one of 4 players in Kansas State history with 1,000+ career rushing yards before the end of their sophomore season. The other 3, Darren Sproles, Daniel Sams, and Cornelius Davis. Pretty good list. Here's the blitz. And Barnes is devoured back near the 40-yard line. It's a loss of 5 on the play.
Wonderful anticipation by the Cowboys defense. You'll see a linebacker just knife through here, Justin Phillips, along with Chad Whitener. Phenomenal defense there to put the Wildcats behind the chains. And up until that point, the Wildcats were winning the line of scrimmage, and I think that's the key for them today, is to win the rushing battle. Not only will they control time of possession, but they'll wear down this Cowboys defense.
3-man front for Oklahoma State. Thompson has the edge, and it turns that into a gain of 7, setting up a 3rd down. And Roddy, last week we were in Manhattan, and part of the problem for Kansas State against West Virginia, they got behind the chains, and too many of these 3rd down situations where they needed 7, 8+ yards.
So far in this game, they've done a great job of setting up the run early. You know, we talked about it. I thought the quarterback run game was something that they kind of abandoned due to the fact that after Skylar Thompson, their 3rd-string quarterback, they've got 2 guys that haven't played a lick. But you're right, they've avoided these long situations, which got them in trouble last week, where they were only 2 for 15 on 3rd downs.
And they struggled in these situations when they were in the opposition territory. Cowboys showing blitz. Here's the pressure. Thompson. There's a flag down. Thompson's going to run for the 1st down. He's got it, and then some. Still on his feet inside the 10, but a penalty marker is down.
Might have been a neutral zone infraction there from Calvin Bundage, who looked as though he might have gotten an early start.
Offside. Defense, number 1, lined up in the neutral zone. Penalty is declined. Result of the play, 1st down.
And a gain of 26 by Thompson. And so far, Kansas State has not thrown the ball once. They have not had to.
Well, I like the game plan. And what you didn't expect was to see them convert on the 3rd and long. Roddy alluded to this, 3 of 15 last week, but it's the creativity and the playmaking ability. And if you're sitting at home watching the Wildcats early on, Skylar Thompson may be something to hang your hat on in the future.
Zach Reuter in motion on 1st and goal. Thompson again searching for running room, and he's to the 6-yard line, a short gain. Well, that 3rd down conversion huge, because last week against West Virginia, Kansas State had the ball in Mountaineers territory 6 times and only scored a total of 6 points.
You've got to get in the red area, and you want touchdowns. You don't even want field goals down here, and especially from this striking distance. But I'll say, defensively, we always knew as a defender, this is the hardest place to score because the field is constricted, and so you have to use creativity and oftentimes power to punch one in.
Ahmad, you talked about the decisiveness from Skylar Thompson, wanting to see more from it. We saw it on that 3rd down. His reads weren't there, and he took off. This is where it really comes into play, as they call a timeout with the clock running down. When you get down close to the end zone, they did a great job of getting him involved in the run game where he can be decisive easily.
Skylar Thompson has run for 60 yards on this opening drive. Kansas State knocking at the door. It's 2nd and goal here in Stillwater. Second and goal, Kansas State. 10th play of the opening drive. The first 9 have all been run plays. Changing things up at the line. Play clock at 5. Thompson bounces to the edge, angles to the end zone. That was a do-it-yourself drive for the redshirt freshman out of Independence, Missouri.
Yeah, this is how you finish off a drive, but I talked about my impact player. 2-time All-Big 12 performer, Winston Dimmel. Watch the block from the fullback here. Outstanding block to pick up the member of the secondary and to break this play open. Skylar Thompson doing the rest with his legs. He set the block up perfectly. executed to perfection inside of the 5-yard line by the Wildcats, and that man right there started it off. That was an unbelievable first drive to start off for Kansas State.
PAT by McCrain is good. A 10-play, 70-yard drive. All 10 plays were rushing plays. Skylar Thompson, 6 carries, 65 yards, and the score on the opening drive.
ESPN College Football, brought to you by Pacific Life. Experience the power of Pacific.
Boone Pickens Stadium, the oldest stadium west of the Mississippi, formerly Lewis Field, home for this Oklahoma State football program since 1913. And how about that young man, the redshirt freshman Skylar Thompson's second career start. And already we saw great leaps forward. He's a young man that K-State views as the future at the quarterback position.
Easy to see why, Anish.
L.D. Brown from inside his own 5. And he is crushed at the 16-yard line. A 13-yard return. Nice tackle by Chase Johnston. Mason Rudolph is the trigger man for one of the best offenses in the country. From Rock Hill, South Carolina, a lot of the big area schools passed on him, even though Mason's father went to UNC. South Carolina, Clemson never offered. He ends up in Stillwater. He's the winningest QB in school history and the holder of 32 school records with a bright future on Sunday. And Rudolph to throw over the middle. It's James Washington. And that is now 43 consecutive games with a catch. Washington, an All-American candidate, a semifinalist for the Biletnikoff. A little slowed by an injury last week, as now Justice Hill picks up a yard, the Big 12's leading rusher. They will move quickly. There are weapons everywhere. And if you look down or you look away, you will miss something.
You're right about that. I love the start to the game. It appears as though the Wildcats are going to give man-to-man matchups on the outside edges. That could be a matchup to follow.
Here's Hill. Able to stretch that out into a couple of extra yards. It brings up 3rd down. Mike Gundy had a lot of praise for his sophomore running back. He said his lateral quickness was the best he has seen since Barry Sanders at Oklahoma State. Rudolph going deep. And incomplete. Washington was double teamed and well covered. Hello, Chris Cotter.
Hello, gentlemen. Let's go to Lubbock. You know, TCU kept Texas Tech out of the end zone today. That's surprising. This big pickoff right here by Jeff Gladney. He's going to take it to the house, sort of. He's going to fumble just before he gets in, but he's going to recover his own fumble for the score. 27-3, TCU wins.
That is not music to the ears of Oklahoma State fans. Zach Siner's punt. Fielded on a hop. Dominique Heath dropped at the 15. Kansas State is going to miss DJ Reed in the return game today. Tonight, 8 Eastern on ABC, number 11 USC against UCLA. NFL scouts will have their eyes on the 2 quarterbacks. Josh Rosen for the Bruins, Sam Darnold for USC. Rosen and Darnold ranked 1-2 in Mel Kiper's top 5, and an Oklahoma contingent checking in at 4 and 5.
Yeah, and if you're going hard here, I go with Baker Mayfield, but that game tonight, no doubt about it, I'm going to go with Sam Darnold, who I think is up for a big game and could really prove himself tonight as being the top guy in this class.
Alex Barnes hit for a loss. Roddy, in college, you played at Georgia Tech in Paul Johnson's option offense, and you've seen this movie before. A team works the clock, drives downfield, and then it's a quick possession by the other team, and K-State's got the ball right back.
It's why it's so important for Kansas State to get first downs. You know, this explosive Oklahoma State offense can't score if they're sitting on the sideline. So some of what they're going to do is eat up the play clock, drain it to 2 or 3 seconds to shorten the game and give this Oklahoma State offense less possessions.
A loss of a yard for Barnes. It sets up 3rd down, and I get a feeling we may see Kansas State's first passing attempt of the game here.
And I think you may just see that, and if you do, you want to keep your eyes on Byron Pringle, averaging 22.5 yards a catch, 5th in FBS, #1 in the Big 12. And if you're Skylar Thompson, this is what you want, opportunities to be able to put your team on your back. I would expect them to come down here to the bottom part of your screen on the trip side.
Wildcats without one of their go-to receivers, Dalton Schoen. He left last week's game with an injury. We have not seen him so far as there's movement up front. And we were told Schoen was unlikely to play today.
Second charge timeout, Kansas State. 30-second timeout.
There was a lot of confusion on that play between Thompson along with Zach Ruder. Didn't appear to know what was happening.
It's going to be a 3rd and 14. And this is an early opportunity for this Oklahoma State defense to flip field position. K-State has called 12 plays so far. All of them have been run plays. And on 3rd and 14, if you're Oklahoma State, you're expecting a pass here. How much pressure do you bring?
Well, here's the deal with pressure. With an athletic quarterback like Skylar Thompson, if he can get past that first guy, now the middle of the field is wide open. So you've got to be careful in bringing pressure despite him being a young quarterback. If I'm Oklahoma State, I drop numbers back and force him to cram a ball into some crowded windows and allow my front line to apply pressure on either a 3- or 4-man rush.
I agree with you, Ahmad, and in addition to that, I'm leaving a spy in the middle of the field to make sure Skylar Thompson doesn't escape and get this first down with his legs.
Play clock at 5. A 3-man rush. Cowboys drop 8. Underneath to Barnes, gobbled up back at the original line of scrimmage, maybe a couple of extra yards, and it's 4th down. Nick Walsh will come on to punt.
That was a great play call there from the defensive coordinator and linebacker coach Glenn Spencer in his 10th season at Oklahoma State, opting to keep everything in front of them, and that's when you've got to rely on your tackling abilities. Oklahoma State doing enough to get the Wildcats off the field.
Cowboys have 21 blocked kicks since 2013. This one chases Stoner back to the 30, and that's where Oklahoma State will begin after a 53-yard punt by Nick Walsh. Impact players for Oklahoma State, Justice Hill and James Washington. Incredibly tough to stop for defenses.
Yeah, Justice Hill, slashing style with great straight line speed. Washington, a nightmare for defenses. And on the opposite side, Trent tanking in the middle of the field. His awareness is impressive. And cornerback Duke Shelley will have a chance today to make plays.
Justice Hill on 1st down, has a hole. Across midfield, he'll cut it back, still churning, and finally shoved out of bounds after a 33-yard gain. You see the lateral quickness, and you see the acceleration.
Yikes.
Rudolph off play action. Downfield for Washington. Touchdown! I hope you didn't blink.
Oh my goodness. 2 plays, touchdown. That's all you can say. And all of the stars were out You saw Hill set up this, and then Mason Rudolph with the NFL throw. He's done this a number of times, dropping it in, perfect weight of the pass. Washington running through the catch. Duke Shelley matched up in coverage. They are still opting to go man-to-man on the outside edges. I personally think that is the wrong decision because of the offensive weapons this team features.
No DJ Reed so far for Kansas State. James Washington was only at about 70% last week. At his best, he is one of the best receivers in college football and an athletic renaissance man. In high school, he played a multitude of sports, reached the state quarterfinals playing tennis. That was in a doubles tournament. He credits tennis with his agility on the football field. It wasn't just tennis. He was a champion in the 100 meters, competed in the long jump. That's where the speed comes into play. And oh, by the way, quite the basketball player in his hometown of Stamford, Texas. That's where the high pointing of the football comes in. And Ahmad, it's not just tennis and track and basketball. He played baseball. He didn't have time to play golf, so he would hit the links on weekends. And oh, by the way, a black belt in Taekwondo.
And what a humble superstar. And I'm from the big country. I was born and raised in Abilene, Texas. Stamford is also a part of the big country. And I can tell you, the way that this young man has been raised, his work ethic, among all the things you just talked about, may be the best part of who he is. He works like a champion, and he comes out here and performs extremely well on Saturdays.
He is within striking distance of the Cowboys' school record for receiving yards. That mark held by Rashawn Woods. And Mike Gundy has said, number 28, in the eyes of Gundy, the best receiver in college football.
Yeah, I think the thing that stands out to most to me is his top end speed. Now, it takes him a while to build up to it, but once he's there, he will surprise you with how fast he's running. And it's those long strides and the gliding ability that he has downfield that makes him a dangerous threat in the deep area of the field.
How long do you think that scoring drive was, Ahmad?
I have no idea.
19 seconds.
Oh, my goodness. Wow, that is impressive.
2 plays, 70 yards, 19 seconds. This is Justin Silman, the former walk-on, and he loses a yard. Silman 35 yards away from 1,000 for his career.
And the other Justin right now on the football field, Justin Phillips, who made the tackle. He's having a heck of a start to this game. We've seen him slicing and dicing through the line. That time there, seeking the football out and then completing the play with the tackle at the end of it. Off to a great start.
Oklahoma State without one of its starting D tackles, Darian Daniels. Injured during the week in practice. Isaiah Zuber, Kansas State's team leader in receptions, and a flag.
Ineligible receiver downfield. Offense, number 89, is covered up by an outside receiver, making him ineligible. 5-yard penalty, second down.
Oh, that's tough. And especially if you're this offense and Skylar Thompson, because you want to get into some type of rhythm. And those are the plays that drive Bill Snyder and his staff crazy. Those are things that, as a player, you control. That has nothing to do with athletic ability. That has everything to do with preparation and making sure you're ready when your play comes your way.
So behind the chains, 2nd and 16. There's a screen. Heath stopped in his tracks. Another loss. A.J. Green with the stop, and it's 3rd and long. And his Cowboy defense has been a little more aggressive since that opening drive.
Yeah, speaking of aggression, watch A.J. Green here in this ISO. Outstanding play. Gets a great jump, just disregards the block there from Zuber, and makes an outstanding play for this defense. And A.J. Green is going to be one of those players that if you're not familiar with, the sophomore from DeSoto, Texas, he's got some traits that are going to make him one of the top defensive backs here in the near future in this conference.
He had the interception to seal the win against Iowa State last week. On 3rd and long, Thompson under pressure, ambushed, and down he goes.
Once
Tripped
again,
up by DeQuinton Osborne.
and Justin Phillips coming with that late pressure, adds himself to the blitz. And I believe that he's going to be the guy today spying perhaps on Skylar Thompson. And I think that's a great matchup. At 6 foot, 230 pounds, the young man from Pearland, Texas, doing an outstanding job of forcing him back into the pocket and helping his defense get off the field.
Stoner makes the fair catch at the 47-yard line after just a 37-yard punt. Kansas State 70 yards on its opening drive, -8 since then. Meanwhile, Oklahoma State, good starting field position. Mason Rudolph leading the country in passing yards. He's responsible for more than 3 touchdowns per game. Now, Mike Gundy telling us when they look for a quarterback here in Stillwater, it is a national search. When it comes to the skill positions, they try to limit it to Texas and the surrounding areas around Stillwater. Justice Hill. And the Big 12's leading rusher stopped just shy of midfield by Jade Kirby. Hill, a true sophomore and a workhorse. 25 or more carries in 5 of the last 7 games. He ran for 228 against Oklahoma, a Bedlam record. Rudolph with time. Downfield, incomplete in the direction of Lacey. There is a penalty marker downfield. Lacey was covered by A.J. Parker, and the reason Parker's seeing early game reps is because DJ Reed is out.
Well, and he should expect this offense to pick on him and to certainly push the ball in his direction. There with a late pull on the wide receiver, A.J. Parker, he didn't even need to. The ball was underthrown so much. And I believe that's the call that the back judge actually made. I believe this will be pass interference on the Wildcats.
Namad, I'm standing right near.
Pass interference. Defense, number 12. 15-yard penalty. Automatic first down.
I'm standing right near where that flag was thrown, and I saw the back judge running in, and you could hear him and sort of read his lips saying he grabbed his arm, and that's exactly what you pointed out. And that's the reason for that pass interference call.
First and 10 from the 36. Rudolph to Lacey. Gets past Parker. And Lacey out of bounds after a gain of 17. Now, you're right. They're going to pick on number 12. Off to Hill, changes direction. Hill taken down at the 20-yard line by A.J. Parker, who that time finds a little redemption with a nice tackle in space.
Yeah, it was a great tackle, especially considering, and Roddy and I were talking about this with the way that Justice plays, his swift feet and then his power make him hard to tackle.
Rudolph to Hill. And he is met by the middle linebacker, Trent Tanking, a former walk-on and now the leading tackler for K-State. 3rd down.
One thing I noticed from watching Tanking on film, he is outstanding in dropping in coverage. Very aware. He moves well enough to track backs out of the backfield. That time there, the perfect distance to come back up and make a play and to force him on 3rd down. We have not heard Marcel Aitman's name yet, but he makes a living down here in the red zone on one-on-one matchups.
Aitman not in the game here on 3rd down. Rudolph incomplete in the direction of Lacey. Parker there, and it's 4th down. And Oklahoma State will send down Matt Amendola and the field goal team.
Now, as silly as that pass interference call was for Parker to get him down here this deep into their field, that was an outstanding play in terms of coverage. He's over the top, went with the appropriate hand, and then was able to knock the ball down, most importantly. Maybe that's the confidence he needs to come out here and to perform well, because his team certainly needs him.
He's a redshirt freshman, Parker, from Oklahoma, as Amendola lines up for a 32-yarder. And the field goal is good, and the Cowboys have their first lead with 1:08 to go in this first quarter. A 6-play drive that results in 3. Your best friend is the ESPN app. Just this morning, Ahmad Brooks was watching his beloved Texas Longhorns knock off West Virginia. And then on the way into the stadium, a Oklahoma State fan got a little jab in at Ahmad, reminding you who won the Oklahoma State-Texas game this year.
Hey, I'm in Big 12 country. That's what I would expect.
And she just left it at that. She let you know Oklahoma State won, walked out of the elevator, and did not say a word.
Heart. She must not have seen the all-time record.
Byron Pringle changing directions. And out of bounds across the 25. Here's Chris.
Time for an AT&T Field Pass. And for that, we go to Kansas. Look at Baker Mayfield coin toss. The kids won't shake his hand. These Kansas kids are savage. But then Mayfield started playing some football, and he started playing pretty well. Rodney Anderson, this kid's really emerged as the top tailback there. In Norman, Mayfield buys some time, finds Anderson, 34 yards for the score. Oklahoma out on top early, 7-0 over on ESPN, guys.
Those kids may have just won free lifetime season tickets here in Stillwater.
And Baker kind of brings some of that on himself with the swag that he carries around, too. He's known for his antics as well.
Dalvin Warmack coming off the best game of his career, and he's tackled for a loss. Calvin Bundage was there, as was Cole Walterscheid. And after that opening drive, a lot of runs for negative yards for Kansas State.
And their timing right now, the blitz, great. And if I'm a young quarterback in Skylar Thompson, he's got to mix up his cadence. I've seen a few times today Justin Phillips get a great jump, along with Calvin Bundage, who are players that blitz in this system. Mix it up, and maybe even get them off sides to slow them down.
On 2nd down, incomplete through the hands of Pringle, and it's 3rd and long.
And guys, on that first drive, it was quarterback runs early in the downs that kept Kansas State above the chains or ahead of the chains. Now we've seen them go back to the running back run, and yes, Oklahoma State is starting to bring the blitz a little bit more to try and stop that in the backfield, but that quarterback run gives you an extra number and keeps you out of 3rd and long.
Wildcats last week only 2 of 15 on 3rd down. Here's the blitz. Thompson's pass nearly intercepted, intended for Carlos Strickland, and Rodarius Williams nearly had his first career interception.
Well, I thought it was great recognition of the blitz by Thompson. He knew he had to get the ball out quickly. This time just missing his mark. And Rodarius Williams, who is the brother of Greedy Williams, one of the top cornerbacks there in the SEC, nearly had an interception. You can't miss those. You've got to make sure you secure that for your team.
Good punt by Walsh, a Kansas State bounce inside the 30, 47 yards altogether. All-State is proud to be part of the team that comes together to do good by contributing to participating universities' general scholarship funds for each field goal and extra point kicked. To date, Allstate has contributed millions in scholarship money. Kansas State needing a win today to become bowl eligible. Oklahoma State, after a come-from-behind victory against Iowa State last week, still has a slim shot to get to the Big 12 championship game, but they need some chaos next week, and they've got to win out. That's what the Cowboys have to do. Rudolph sacked by Will Gary. And that brings us to the end of quarter number 1. Gary, the two-time first-team all-conference selection, with the sack. Kansas State took the early 7-0 lead. Skylar Thompson with a touchdown run, but Rudolph to Washington. What a familiar refrain that's been in Stillwater. Start of the second quarter here at Oklahoma State. Kansas State needing a win to become bowl eligible. Oklahoma State has to win out. And the most likely scenario involves Baylor, which has just one conference win, beating TCU next week to help the Cowboys get into that Big 12 championship game, setting up a likely Bedlam rematch. Justice Hill patiently probing, turns the corner, and then lowers his shoulder, running into Kendall Adams, picking up 6.
Manish, you saw Justice Hill on that play, but on the play before, Mason Rudolph sacked. This Oklahoma State team has been really banged up on the offensive line. They really got healthy in that West Virginia game after only scoring 13 points against Texas. Since then, they've scored 50 points in 2 of the 3 games and 49 in the other one with this O-line healthy.
At one point in the Texas game, they had 4 second stringers on the O-line in the 4th quarter.
That's scary.
Against a 4-man rush, Rudolph on 3rd down, and that is through the hands of James Washington, 4th down.
Yeah, you saw him there. He was displeased with his efforts there because you've got to haul that in if you're Washington. And the type of player that he is, he rarely has drops. An outstanding deep dig route here as he's getting across the middle of the field. And great coverage by Duke Shelley of being over the top. But that one should have been hauled in by the All-American Washington.
Zach Seiner kicks it away. Dominique Heath tackled at the 32. Sunday NFL Countdown at 10 a.m. Eastern on ESPN. It is the 5th anniversary of one of the most memorable blunders in NFL history, especially recent history, the famous butt fumble.
I'm sorry, that's outstanding.
That's why I gave you a second. Monday Night Football, Falcons and the Seahawks at the link. Coverage for that starts at 6 Eastern on ESPN.
I would not want to be known for that play.
That was is that still a fixture on the Knock Top 10?
It's got to be. Oh, boy. Thanks for the reminder.
Thompson runs across midfield and out of bounds after a gain of 21. 82 yards rushing in his first half for Skylar Thompson.
And that is the most dangerous play they have in their run-pass option plays and package. It allows him to kind of shuffle his feet and move towards the line of scrimmage and still throw the ball downfield. And I can tell you this much, it really stresses out the defense. You don't know whether he's running, and if you're in the secondary, you've got to stay in coverage. Great play call and great execution on the part of the Wildcats.
Lays Gammon in motion. We have not seen the starting tight end, Dayton Valentine, today. Downfield. Caught by Pringle. Touchdown, Kansas State. #1 in the Big 12 in yards per reception. That goes for 47 and a score.
Yeah, and that time he beat Oklahoma State's best corner. You'll see it at the top of your screen. A.J. Green in coverage. And he just flat out burns him. And you see where Green got beat on that play as his hips got locked. And what I mean by that, it was hard for him to get that speed turn at the top of the route. But give Pringle credit. He set up the inside cut to perfection and finished it off with a score.
A two-play, 68-yard drive in less than 45 seconds. And the fourth receiving touchdown of the season for Byron Pringle. Junior out of Tampa, began his career at Butler Community College. And one of the things Bill Snyder has done over the years, he has really made the most of the walk-on program, and he's identified talent at the junior college level and turned those players into productive Wildcats. There it is again, Thompson to Pringle. Second touchdown pass of the season for Skylar Thompson.
And it wasn't a great throw, but Pringle had gotten so much separation on the route that it allowed Skylar to misfire and have an underneath throw and still come up with the big play.
Well, so far, Skylar Thompson more total yards than Mason Rudolph. Thompson has run for a score and thrown for a score. Rudolph had that big strike to James Washington for a touchdown. Mason Rudolph, I got a feeling he's going to end up in New York. He has to, right, for the Heisman?
Well, I mean, if he continues at this pace, and this is a great opportunity right now for him to stake a claim in one of those spots by coming back out right now. Kansas State is giving them all they can handle. Can the gunslinger come out here and make plays offensively?
That one is tipped and incomplete. Tanking got his hand on it.
Well, I said it. I said this guy is outstanding in dropping in coverage, and I mean it. When I watch him on film, his timing, he's very sneaky and very crafty in the way that he drops, and his distances are to perfection. He gets at the right distance to be able to affect over-the-top routes and underneath routes. Rudolph very fortunate that wasn't an interception.
Rudolph going back to work. Stoner. Dylan Stoner. Got a little extra help on the block by James Washington. It's a first down. This Oklahoma State passing offense, number 2 in the country. This Kansas State pass defense, 128 out of 130 nationally. And a nice pickup of 3 by Justice Hill. If you look at what K-State has had to face of late, Rudolph this week, Will Greer the previous week, Nick Shimonek before that. That's caught out in the flat by Washington. Upended after a gain of 14. Hill. Powers ahead for a gain of 9, 2nd and 1.
Yeah, just too much speed for Tanking. Tanking had the right angle initially, but it was the speed and burst that allowed him to pop that one.
This is J.D. King, and he's able to move the chains. He's more of the bruiser. A true freshman who against West Virginia carried 36 times for 142 yards in a game when Justice Hill was banged up. Rudolph sets. And there is Marcell Ateman, his first catch of the game. It's a first down for the 6'4" senior from Dallas.
Yeah, and they've been rolling coverage his way, partly because he is on A.J. Parker starting in place of DJ Reed.
King again sets up a 2nd and 3, and this is the part of the field where Ateman and his size become so dangerous. Rudolph incomplete at the feet of King, and that almost looked intentional, trying to throw it away with nobody open.
Here's what Mike Gundy said about Mason Rudolph
was in the
when
area
we
of the
asked him
pass.
about some of the coaching points he was trying to emphasize with Mason. There, you have an opening. You could perhaps even pick up that first down with your feet. Now, he's not a runner, but he's got to learn when the defense is dropping back in coverage and guys are covered downfield to take the easy money. That's something that he needs to grow into to really help develop his game.
On 3rd down, Hill on the counter. And a nice tackle that time. Hill's going to be short of the marker. Kyle Ball with the stop. It's 4th and short. And it looks like the offense is on the field. A decision this crowd approves of.
Yeah, I think with this rushing attack, and this is that diamond formation that they like to run, they bring in both of their cowboy backs. And typically when they slide Hill over, he goes the opposite direction.
Rudolph to throw. He's got 8 minutes, 1st and goal.
Now that's easy money, and part of the reason they do that when they bring in both of the cowboy backs, it forces defense to go man-to-man on the outside edges with Washington and Ateman. Easy pickings there for Mason Rudolph, and great catch from Ateman.
Ateman matched up on Parker. 6'4" against 5'11". Hill in the backfield, Stoner in the slot. Rudolph, that pass tipped. 2nd and goal.
That's the second play that Trent Tanking has gotten his hands on the football. Need I say it again, this kid is outstanding in dropping in coverage. If I'm projecting what he could do at the next level, maybe a 3rd down middle linebacker, because his instincts and awareness in those types of situations is off the charts.
Reminds a lot of people of Jonathan Truman. Rudolph pumps twice. Hits the ground. It's Ball with the sack. The ball nearly came out. I think it did, but Rudolph fell on it. 3rd and goal. And that time Mason Rudolph just took too much time. This will be the 14th play of the drive. 3rd and goal from the 12. Ateman lined up at the bottom of your screen. Washington up top. It's a run. Hill bounces off one of his linemen and then into the teeth of that Kansas State defense. And 4th down coming up, and we'll see Matt Amendola for a field goal.
You got to give the Wildcats credit. Inside of the red area, really bowing their back, preventing this dominant offense from scoring a touchdown. And coming into this game, believe it or not, Oklahoma State is not a great red zone offense. And one of the key matchups for me is they rank 51st in college football coming into the game. And KSU's red zone defense is 2nd in the Big 12 and 11th in college football in the FBS. So what you saw there was a battle of two wills, and the Wildcats won.
Amendola is still able to get 3 for the Cowboys to make it a 1-point game. Taco Bell, a proud partner of the College Football Playoff. Be on the lookout for student sections and passionate fans like these at games all season long. It is the Taco Bell student section. Ahmad, your fondest memories, and I use the word fondest in quotes, of playing at T. Boone Pickens Stadium, or I guess it was Lewis Field back then, right?
Yeah, I've got to admire their fans, man. They are very energetic and enthusiastic.
Pringle from the 11. Across the 30. Pringle slips a tackle. Could he go? Byron Pringle with a house call.
Kansas State does it again. While I'm doing the broadcast, I got a message from Aaron Lockett, and Pringle is stepping in place of DJ Reed, but I tell you what, if you know anything about Big 12 football, this is a team that does this. They can score on special teams. I'm not sure what Bill Snyder and the Wildcats have in the water in Manhattan, but it always seems to come when they need it, and this time here, Byron Pringle, the answer. And you can go back over the years as you see this big play, and this can change the energy of your team, your program. Pringle making Amendola miss, and then the long stride to take it all the way to the house.
ESPN, home of the New Year's Six and the college football playoff.
It's the match for Colorado Raiders for Coach John Smith. The Cowboy wrestling team as they host Minnesota.
The equalizer over the years for Bill Snyder and Kansas State has been this. They score with their defense. They score on special teams. Nobody has more non-offensive touchdowns since 1999. Since 2005, Kansas State has 45 kick return or punt return touchdowns. No one else even has 30.
Wow.
And Byron Pringle taking a kick back 89 yards. And remember, Pringle's their secondary return man. DJ Reed not playing today for undisclosed reasons. The normal kickoff return man, and he's one of the best in the country. And that is a position that is coached by Bill Snyder's son. Sean Snyder is the special teams coordinator. And over the years, they always seem to have an ace at that position, whether it's Terrence Newman or Morgan Burns or Tyler Lockett or Darren Sproles. Dylan Stoner into the embrace of Jade Kirby for a gain of 5. Justice Hill slips a couple of tackles, moves the chains. 1st and 10, Oklahoma State. Rudolph downfield, intercepted by Duke Shelley. Going into this game, we wondered how Kansas State could keep up with the offensive firepower of Oklahoma State. Well, they've done it with special teams. Now their defense comes up with a big play.
Yeah, and Shelley gave up a post touchdown earlier to Washington, but this time coverage was magnificent, over the top, and lays out for that ball. Was in the perfect position to make a play. Rudolph perhaps maybe hung the ball up a tad too long, which allowed Shelley to get underneath and get a big turnover for Kansas State.
The Wildcats were almost a 3-touchdown underdog coming into Stillwater, looking to tack on to their lead. Oklahoma State defensively without Trey Flowers. They're all conference safety for the first half. Serving a suspension after a targeting call last week. Thompson stopped by Brayland. Or Brailford, excuse me. And we've got a flag as Thompson took a hit after the whistle.
Delay of game. Offense. 5-yard penalty. Second down.
It looked like Bill Snyder was trying to get a timeout, just either could not get the officials' attention in time.
7-17, please.
And guys, Skylar Thompson had a start last week, but remember that start was at home. They're now backed up towards that Oklahoma State student section where those paddles are pounding against the pad in front, and it gets a little bit louder. So the communication when you're checking plays has to go a little bit faster as the clock is running down. You have to be louder and more decisive with what you're going to say.
Outstanding point, Roddy.
Five-man pressure. Thompson is subdued behind the line of scrimmage. Third down. Before that, here's Chris.
All right, guys, Georgia trying to bounce back from that disappointing loss against Auburn last week, taking on Kentucky in Athens. Nick Chubb, nice little run here, gets into the end zone from 8 yards out. 7-6 right now. Dogs on top of the second.
We will keep our eye on that one. Georgia, one loss this season. That was to Auburn. Still very much in the playoff conversation. On third and long. Thompson flushed. Flag down. Penalty marker back at the 7-yard line.
There's a flag down in the back.
Holding. Offense, number 61. That penalty is declined. Fourth down.
Abdul Beecham, the left guard, whistled for the hold, and now Nick Walsh, the guitar-playing, songwriting punter with dreams of Nashville, will kick it away from his own 5. Stoner waiting for it at his 35. And this one rolling toward midfield, just a 34-yard punt. Oklahoma State down 8 with some prime starting field position. Mason Rudolph put up big numbers against K-State in wins against the Wildcats the last 2 years. 8 total touchdowns, almost 900 passing yards. James Washington, 100-yard receiving games against Kansas State in back-to-back years as well. Justice Hill up the middle, dropped by Gary at midfield, second down.
And one thing to follow here is it appears as though middle linebacker Trent Tanking went into the locker room, and now Sam Sizlove has now stepped into the middle of this defense along with Jade Kirby. We're trying to gather some information, but however, that would be a big hit for the Wildcats.
And Oklahoma State just called a run play up the middle. They'll go right back up the middle to Hill. And he pinballs off the defender. It's 3rd and 1. The Tanking has had a nice first half, too, for Kansas State. That's a big loss. Tipped a couple of balls. 6 tackles. Cowboys looking for their first 3rd down conversion. Rudolph gets rid of it quickly. Has his man, and that is Tylan Wallace, the freshman from Fort Worth. He had a few big 3rd down receptions last week coming in for a hobbling James Washington.
They like him, and as he comes off the field, that's a name that once Washington is gone, you will certainly hear Wallace's name occupying that position, typically to the boundary or the right side of the field. He's made plays, and he's also earned and gained the respect of his coaching staff and teammates.
Here's Hill, changing directions, and Justice Hill with a pickup of 7. A flag is down.
Holding, offense, number 42. 10-yard penalty, replay, first down.
That is Sione Fine Feyuiaki, the junior out of Santa Clara, by way of the College of San Mateo.
That was a walk-off on that pronunciation there, bud. I've got to give you major props. That was awesome.
You were betting against me already.
Ahmad, he's been waiting for that all.
He's just Sione from here on out there, right? Rudolph going long. Wants Aitman. Incomplete. He was double covered. Parker and Goolsby were there, and Aitman had to turn his body. Ball a little off target.
I talked about his toughness at the top of this show. Mason Rudolph, 6'5", 230 pounds. Watch how tough he stands here in the pocket under pressure. And then Aitman, you've got to make this grab. You know, he goes to the one-on-one matchup against the less experienced A.J. Parker from Bartlesville, Oklahoma.
K-State rushes for Rudolph. Intercepted. Kendall Adams breaking a tackle. Adams still on his feet. Now they'll say he stepped out of bounds. Back near the 36-yard line. Third pick for Adams, who's coming off an 11-tackle game. And the second interception thrown today by Mason Rudolph.
That was a poorly thrown ball, period. It was out of the reach of the wide receiver in a dangerous area, especially when you run those underneath routes of the top of coverage. And Kansas State has made them pay once again. And give Kansas State credit. They are attacking this explosive offense, have limited them to only 1 touchdown so far. And we're nearly into the second half. They're doing an outstanding job.
K-State forced 4 turnovers last week in the first half against West Virginia. They picked off Rudolph twice. This time, the ball overthrown. Adams getting the Wildcats the ball back. Mason Rudolph has thrown just 13 interceptions since the start of last season, but 4 have come against Kansas State, including 2 in this first half. And after that last interception by Kendall Adams, Kansas State with the ball and an 8-point lead. Skylar Thompson to throw, and Isaiah Zuber with a first down catch.
And here are those interceptions we mentioned. The first one, as he's trying to attack downfield, just overthrows Washington, but give Shelley credit. He was in prime position to make the play. This time here, the exact same thing, throwing the ball over Washington's head. And give credit to the Wildcats. They secured those takeaways. And so many times you see balls hit DBs right in their bread baskets, and they drop them. Not for the Wildcats.
Quarterback run. And nowhere to go for Skylar Thompson. We go to Chris Cotter.
All right, y'all, Dave and Buster's halftime report coming your way in just a little bit. Chip Kelly, Jonathan Vilma will join me. We'll talk about the Canes doing it once again earlier today. Coming back and getting the win. Baker Mayfield in action, as you guys have been talking about, struggling a little bit today against Kansas. Highlights of those games. Plus, the Iron Bowl is all set with Alabama and Auburn winning today. We'll talk about that as well. Dave and Buster's coming your way in a bit.
Baker Mayfield right now at the forefront of the Heisman conversation. Oklahoma finishing with Kansas today and then West Virginia next week. And we've got a timeout from Kansas State. That is the final
Third final
timeout
charge
by the
timeout.
Wildcats.
Kansas State. 30-second timeout.
Tonight, Sports Center comes your way at 1:30 a.m. Eastern. Find out who Mel Kiper Jr. thinks is the better NFL prospect, Josh Rosen or Sam Darnold. UCLA, USC tonight. Don't forget about Wisconsin. All the Badgers do is keep winning. They knock off Michigan, where Wisconsin stands now in the playoff Polaroid. Plus, NBA Saturday Night Hoops and a closer look at what James Harden is doing. Sports Center tonight, Linda Cohn and Kevin Connors.
And something that's concerning me right now with the redshirt freshman quarterback Skylar Thompson from Independence, Missouri, is that the first time he had a delay of game penalty was backed up inside of their 20-yard line, and the coaching staff tried to get a timeout. This time they had to call a timeout. He's got to do a better job of managing the clock. I understand he's young, but that's one of the fundamentals and basics of making sure you can manage a ball game. I'd like to see him do a better job of managing the clock.
And Ahmad, they're out of timeouts now, so no more get-out-of-jail-free cards with the clock for the freshman quarterback.
Indeed.
On second down, near side, Zuber flung out of bounds by Williams after a gain of 10. This will be close, and it appears it's enough for a first down.
That was good rhythm, good footwork in the pocket from Thompson to stand tall. He scanned the left of his field, didn't like what he saw, came back to the right side, and that was a nicely thrown ball to move the chains.
Thompson, 5 of 7 passing. It's been a run-heavy offense for K-State. 20 rushes to just 7 pass attempts. This is Alex Barnes. He is dropped inside the 40, a short gain. It's a Carius Green on the stop. Barnes, the team's leading rusher. Interesting cat, too. Roddy and I had a chance to spend some time with him last week. A weight room warrior and a sci-fi nerd, Roddy, if that makes sense.
Yeah, he wore some Goku Dragon Ball Z socks last week, and then you tested him on his Star Wars knowledge. I think he dominated your Star Wars quiz, didn't he?
Yeah, I had a lot of bad questions. Here's Barnes. Breaks a tackle. Barnes down the sideline. Touchdown, Alex Barnes.
Whoa. Kansas State is on fire. They have silenced the Polk crowd here, and the block there downfield from Isaiah Zuber, we will see it, was phenomenal. And Alex Barnes doing a good job of setting it up downfield, showing that he's got enough speed to punch one in. Kansas State coming up with a touchdown in 2 minutes.
It started with the turnover, the interception by Adams. And Alex Barnes, he can squat 575, bench 380, and tell you everything you need to know about the Dagobah star system. And he can do this too.
I like it a lot, and he's got that large build, and that's good footwork right there, and outstanding vision. But I talked about the block there from Isaiah Zuber, the young man from Stone Mountain, Georgia. Look at that, latched on, and the defensive back, Rodarius Williams, has no chance of getting out of his grasp.
And that touchdown created a hush and silence here at T. Boone Pickens Stadium. Oklahoma State was a heavy favorite coming into this game, and right now it's Kansas State doing it with a balanced offensive approach. They picked their spots with the run and the pass, even though it's been mostly run, so maybe not that balanced, but they've done it with special teams. They've done it with defense, forcing a couple of turnovers, and they have held one of the most explosive offenses in the nation in check.
You know, and one of the things that I was impressed with this Kansas State team, you look at their record and you question, how could a team like this be dominating one of the league's best. Well, you know, Kansas State had some close losses. Close loss to Vandy, close loss to Texas, a close loss to Oklahoma and West Virginia. And this is a team that believes they can compete with anybody. And right now, they are handing it to the Cowboys.
And even the TCU loss, that game was interrupted by lightning a couple of times. Justice Hill nowhere to go. Kyle Ball with another play. A backup defensive end has had a couple of big stops here in this first half. It's 2nd and long. Rudolph nowhere to go, and he is engulfed. Will Gary and Ball again, and it's 3rd and long. And boy, the pendulum swung to Kansas State, and the Wildcats have all the momentum right now.
And they are getting outstanding pressure from a 4-man rush. Both sacks today coming on 4-man pressure. And I tell you what, if you're Mason Rudolph, I believe you've got to do a better job of helping your team. I alluded to this earlier. Looks like they'll run this clock down, but you've got to do a better job of knowing when to break the pocket and to prevent your team from giving up those costly sacks.
Kansas State out of timeouts. Justice Hill thrown to the ground by Kirby, and it's 4th down, and that should be the last play of this first half. K-State cannot stop the clock, and Kansas State with a 15-point lead on the road in Stillwater, and that bodes well, not for Mike Gundy, but for Bill Snyder, because the Wildcats under Snyder have won 94% of their games when leading at the half. 28-13, a bit of a surprise in Stillwater. Time for the Dave and Buster's halftime report after the break with Chris Cotter, Chip Kelly, and Jonathan Vilma. Start of the 3rd quarter here at Boone Pickens Stadium, and Kansas State with a 15-point halftime lead against ranked Oklahoma State. Wildcats have done it with a special teams touchdown. Their defense came up with a couple of interceptions, and Oklahoma State offensively just 1 TD, but the Cowboys receive to start this second half, and they will begin at their own 25-yard line. At the top of the broadcast, we wondered how Kansas State would match up against Oklahoma State's dynamic offense, and they've done it the way they've done it for years. It's defense, it's special teams, and the offense taking advantage of some of those opportunities.
Yeah, it's been stout defense. You look at it, they've held this powerful and potent Cowboys offense to 1 touchdown. And then you go back and you look at the special teams touchdowns you talked about with the kickoff return. And then right before half, getting a takeaway and riding it right downfield for a score. Kansas State right now playing some of its best ball.
Justice Hill, he buttons his way right into the teeth of that Kansas State defense. A loss of a yard. Hill had 81 yards in that first half. Trent tanking back in the game at middle linebacker for K-State. He had exited in the first half, and he had been playing very well.
That's a great sign for them. They need him in the middle of that defense to stop the run, but also to drop back in coverage.
On 2nd down, Rudolph and Dylan Stoner comes down with it. A 1st down for the Cowboys. Stoner, a redshirt freshman from Tulsa, a freak athlete. Last year, he beat James Washington in the final conditioning drill.
Yikes.
Quick screen, Aitman. Wrapped up by Kirby and Adams, a gain of 6. This time to Stoner, bubble screen. He's got a 1st down across midfield. Talking to Mike Gundy yesterday, he said what he likes about Mason Rudolph is what Gundy called Rudolph's ability to turn a double play. Rudolph goes back to Stoner through his hands, and you saw a little bit of that on the previous play, and really it's that ability to catch, pivot, turn and throw, but do it all in one motion.
Absolutely, and especially when you're throwing into the boundary where the defense already has an edge in terms of spacing. And that's where they've started out, throwing it to the offensive left side of the field with Sterner along with Aitman. And I'll tell you this, when you do go to that quick passing game, you've got to have wide receivers who are committed to blocking, and they've got several of those on this team.
Here is Stoner on the drag route and tracked by Kirby, third down.
You know, Anish, didn't see it on that play, the turning the double play motion, but it's also important in the run-pass option game where Mason Rudolph sticks the ball into the belly of the running back, then has to flip his hips and get it out quick. He does a great job at it, and that's one of the big things that Mike Gundy emphasized what makes Mason Rudolph so good.
Great point, and he even said he was masterful at the mesh point there with those run-pass options.
Cowboys 1 of 7 on third down. Make it 1 of 8. That's the third or fourth overthrow today from Mason Rudolph.
Yeah, this time just a tad bit outside, and it appeared as though he thought that Washington might have wanted to bring this route back out because of the pressure inside coming from Denzel Goolsby. But Rudolph missing an opportunity to convert on third down.
Signer to punt. And into the end zone for a touchback.
Yeah, here's some highlights from the first half. Byron Pringle putting in work not only as a wide receiver, but as a returner, filling in. And then they come back here. This was big. Second quarter interception, and they convert this into points by an outstanding play by this offense and a run by Alex Barnes, who gets a great outside block by Isaiah Zuber to really break this play open. And at that point, Kansas State ripped momentum away from the hearts of these fans and from the Cowboys.
It got quiet late in that first half. Thompson takes a shot downfield, flags on the play. It was in the direction of Zuber. He was covered by Trey Flowers, who is back after missing the first half due to a suspension for targeting last week.
Pass interference, defense, number 31, 15-yard penalty, automatic first down.
Trey Flowers from Converse, Texas, went to Judson, a very renowned football program there in the state of Texas. You see him here. He takes the appropriate angle, but the contact there was just unnecessary. You've got to be able to roll into that. Just as you're contacting, look back at the ball, and oftentimes officials will let that type of contact continue play.
Alex Barnes. No, that is Skylar Thompson. He had half the crowd and most of the defense fooled. It's a pickup of 7. And Thompson, the quarterback, closing in on 100 yards rushing.
Yeah, the quarterback run game, it's such a large part of Kansas State's offense. What does it do? It adds an extra blocker with the running back, but it also adds an extra offensive threat in the run game in Thompson. Very difficult for defenses to defend and find the right defense for it.
Now Barnes to the outside, and he's got a first down for K-State. Roddy, last week when we were in Manhattan, we didn't see too much of the QB run game, and you wonder how much of that is because right now there's just not a lot of depth at that position with the injuries to Ertz and Delton.
I think a lot of it was, and that led to some of the struggles that they had against West Virginia. So this coaching staff, it looks like they went back last week and said, hey, our offense is quarterback run. We have to do it to be successful, and they've done it well here today.
Barnes, and he is stopped by Justin Phillips after a yard. Thompson today 5 of 7, 75 yards and a TD through the air, 95 rushing yards. And this coaching staff must be thinking, okay, you've got 2 games left in the season. You're trying to get bowl eligible. And the emphasis and the onus right now is on to win these games. And they've got a chance to steal one in Stillwater. Zuber hangs on to that. Nope, incomplete. Third down.
You know, I've been impressed with Skylar Thompson and his ability to keep it out of the hands of the Cowboys defense. He's protecting the football, and though I don't think he's at a point yet in his career where he can beat you or win games with his arm, but he's certainly doing enough today to convince you that he is a passing threat. And here on this third long situation, you would expect that with the confidence he's showing right now, they put the ball in his hands, say, find the open man, and convert here.
Former high school player of the year in Missouri. Thompson against a three-man rush. Will step up. He'll try to run for the first. He gets to midfield. And it's fourth down, Kansas State, the punt team, and Nick Walsh coming on.
And number 19, Justin Phillips, who we identified early on in the ball game as being the spy player on Thompson, dropped back in coverage. A nice job of transitioning back up and making an open field tackle on the quarterback.
Stoner makes the fair catch inside the 10. A 41-yard punt. Special teams coming through for K-State.
Welcome back to Stillwater, and I had a chance to catch up with Oklahoma State head coach Mike Gundy at halftime. And when I asked him about the 3 sacks and 2 interceptions that Mason Rudolph threw in the first half, he said a couple of them were overthrows on those interceptions, that it was uncharacteristic for Rudolph. But a bigger thing is they need to be better on third downs. Only 1 for 8 on third down so far.
On first down, it's Marcel Aitman. And that will move the chains, a gain of 12.
Yeah, it's more like the Mason Rudolph that I've studied on film. Standing tall on the pocket in the opposite hash and throwing the out route. That is an NFL throw.
Right back to Aitman, too high, covered by A.J. Parker, who has really settled down after a bit of a shaky start. Remember, he's getting a lot of reps today with DJ Reed out. Justice Hill taken out of bounds by Kirby, slowed by Parker, and a 3rd and long now as Kansas State will bring in its pass rushing unit up front.
That was a great job of defending the most dynamic back in the Big 12. Doing a nice job of stretching out the defense, taking the right angles, and not falling for the wiggle and the movement that he likes to set defenders up with.
One of the best third down teams in the country. Not today for the Cowboys. Rudolph to Hill. Stays on his feet, taken down by Shelley. And the Cowboys will kick.
Kansas State's defense right now, they are playing lights out against one of the top offensive units in the country. They're playing sound. Their gap integrity has been outstanding, and they're making their play when they need to.
Fair catch made after a 42-yard punt. Kansas State has put the shackles on one of the most explosive offenses in college football.
ESPN College Football, brought to you by Pacific Life. Experience the power of Pacific.
That first shot you saw of Mike Gundy, the black and white photo, that was from his playing days when he was the quarterback at Oklahoma State. Had the Lou Ferrigno haircut back then. Up until this year, he was the winningest QB in school history. Mason Rudolph has surpassed him. But Gundy is still the winningest head coach in school history, now in his 13th season. Justin Silman for a gain of a couple. Bill Snyder, meanwhile, 78 years old, the head coach at Kansas State. And it was reported this week by Brett McMurphy that Jim Leavitt had agreed to become Kansas State's head coach in waiting last year. But the deal was reportedly nixed by Snyder. Leavitt at that time was the defensive coordinator at Colorado. He's now in the same role with Oregon. Thompson's pass hauled in along the far sideline. A gain of 14 by Pringle. And really, this Kansas State administration, you're in, I wouldn't call it a tough spot, but Bill Snyder has meant so much to K-State. It's the greatest rebuild in the history of college football. The 3 years he stepped aside, the program started to slip. He came back, he saved it. Everybody knows Bill wants his son Sean to eventually succeed him. And Ahmad, my question to you is, how much say should Bill Snyder have?
Previous play is now under further review.
They're going to review that last play, but Ahmad, how much say should Bill Snyder have in who the next head coach should be?
I think the right decision here is to give him some responsibility. What I'd like to see the administration do is say, hey, Bill, we know what you've meant to this program. How about you give us your top 3 candidates, and to start the interviewing process with the 3 guys that he names. I think it's a great way to respect what he's done for this university, but also these administrators have a job to do. And with all due respect to the Snyder family, I think obviously you'd see Sean Snyder on that list.
After review, the ruling on the field is confirmed.
And you'd probably also see some guys that Bill Snyder respected. The one thing you don't want to do, and this is so difficult because when you have a legend like Bill Snyder, the problem is you want to still be able to keep him associated with this university. I think it's good for their brand, and that's where you're really in a bind.
Snyder, 78 years old, and he can keep coaching as long as he wants, but if you're the administration, you do have to think, well, who's next and what comes next for this program? Thompson wants Pringle, has Pringle, Byron Pringle with his 3rd touchdown of the game.
And he ran out of his shoe. Oh my goodness. And for the 2nd time today, he has blown by A.J. Green, who I think is going to be a fine football player here. You see him at the bottom of your screen. The angle there at the end where he went upfield, that is incredibly difficult for a cornerback to get back in line or to not stay in behind him. And that time there, A.J. Green was trailing, and he tripped up on Pringle's feet as he was burning by him.
Shoeless Byron has 3 long touchdowns today. Touchdown receptions of 46 and 47 and an 89-yard kick return. Kansas State up 22 on the road. Skylar Thompson with that lean and hungry look, and such men are dangerous, and he has been today. 134 yards through the air, 2 TDs, passing, another rushing touchdown, and 98 yards on the ground in just his 2nd career start. Tonight on ABC 8 Eastern, number 11 USC hosting UCLA at the Coliseum. Rosen versus Darnold, the 2 quarterbacks that Mel Kiper has as the number 1 and number 2 quarterbacks on his big board. You can watch streaming live on the ESPN app, and that's going to be a question for a lot of NFL teams picking high in the draft. If you need a quarterback, is it Rosen or is it Darnold? Rudolph's pass, that was behind Lacey, and Mason Rudolph is one of Kiper's top 5 QBs, 16 out of 29 today, and just been uncharacteristically erratic.
Indeed, he's out of sync right now, and even on that particular play, I thought his footwork was good enough for him to complete that throw, just not thrown in the right location. But he's also the type of player that it only needs 3 or 4 throws to change the course of this ball game.
The senior from Rock Hill, South Carolina. That one broken up. It took forever to get to Washington, and Cree Moore got his hand on it. 3rd down now for Oklahoma State.
And he actually got the back of his head on it. He was trying to get under that route and then flip his hips around, but Mason Rudolph threw it early, and it hit him in the back of the head. Ahmad, do you ever break up a pass like that with the helmet?
No, but I'll take it. Give me that PBU for sure. And I love the way Cree Moore plays in the slot. He's a very active player with great awareness.
A 4-man twist by K-State. Incomplete, 4th down, no flag, and Oklahoma State will punt. Now, Roddy, you were not here last year when we were in Stillwater, but Ahmad did take a shot to the back of the head by the legendary wrestling coach here at Oklahoma State, John Smith.
You know, it was in play for us to go and see John Smith this year, but once it was kind of thrown out there that might be a rookie hazing thing where I get slapped in the back of the head and thrown to the ground.
You were definitely getting thrown to the ground.
Yeah, it was a hard pass on my part.
Yeah, that was definitely you this year, Roddy. Heath breaks a tackle up the sideline and out of bounds inside the 30 after a 49-yard punt by Siner. We do have a flag down.
During the kick, holding, receiving team, number 3, 10-yard penalty, 1st down.
Byron Pringle has been the star for Kansas State. 3 touchdowns, a couple of TD receptions of 46 and 47, and then an 89-yard kick return as he's now the primary return man with DJ Reed out.
He's been spectacular, and he's answered the call today as his team needed him. He's helped in special teams. He's also helped out a young quarterback still trying to grow and develop and gain confidence as a passer. And he's been the safety net today for Skylar Thompson. He's having the game of his life. Only 3 receptions, and 2 of those have gone for touchdowns. Right now, he is playing out of his mind.
Silman has a 1st down and ushered out by Flowers, 15 yards on the play. And Silman now 14 yards away from 1,000 for his career. Byron Pringle came into this game 5th in the nation in yards per reception. That number will go up after today. 3 catches, 106 yards, 2 TDs. Dimmel and Silman swap places in the backfield. Silman tackled by Flowers after a gain of 2, 2nd down.
I don't know what it was, but Skylar Thompson has used his feet today, his arm, that time using his brain, and deciding that he needed to audible and check that run off to the opposite side. I believe that was an initial run, but it was his responsibility to get them into the right play, and I believe he did.
Silman feet churning. He's to the 40, setting up a 3rd and manageable, and that's been the big difference for Kansas State from last week to this week. Roddy, on 3rd downs, they've just been in much better position.
Well, it started with the commitment to the run game early on 1st and 2nd downs. This time it's twice with the running back, but we saw in the first half with the quarterback run early in the drive. They're able to get in these 3rd and manageables where now they've really liked the draw with Skylar Thompson, but they can also throw the ball as well.
Thompson downfield, Pringle open, there he goes, 4 score!
This young man is having the game of his life. Oh my goodness. Headed into this game, you knew his ability to reach top end speeds very quickly. He's got the size at 6'2", 205, and the speed to really attack deep downfield. That's what I said when I said he was an impact player. Little did I know today that he would completely torch the Cowboys secondary, as he's been targeted. 4 catches today. 3 of those have gone for bombs, not just touchdowns, bombs. And this is the type of performance that really does help get you on the national scene. Fantastic. He just runs a wheel route from the inside. You could tell he ran into 2 defenders, but this was great creativity there, and also a great rub route from Isaiah Zuber that was able to open that play up. The length of his touchdowns today, 46, 89, 47, and 60. That also includes that dynamic kickoff return for 89 yards. Anish, this guy today is balling.
Look at what he's done today. 4 touchdowns. 3 of his 4 catches have gone for scores, and this is a stunner. Kansas State 42, Oklahoma State 13. Since the start of the second quarter, the Wildcats have outscored the Cowboys 35-3.
And guys, the other part of those big plays to Byron Pringle, great protection by the offensive line to let him get downfield. And then Skylar Thompson has not missed on these deep throws.
Now you can start to see why Kansas State is excited about what the future holds for Skylar Thompson. You got a glimpse a few weeks ago when he came in for Alex Delton against Texas Tech and rallied the Wildcats from 11 down in the 4th quarter to a overtime win. Last week, some bumps in his first career start. He's growing up fast. Rudolph to Justice Hill. In space. And Hill able to move the chains, a gain of 12.
And that might be one way right there to get this offense started. They're dropping back numbers. Check down to your back. That's an option.
Hill to the 42. Normally you would say 42-13. Warm up the bus, right? Oklahoma State, the way they're able to score and move the ball. This is not over. Rudolph going long. Washington held on to it.
This is spectacular. Watch the matchup between Shelley and Washington. This battle, the win goes to Washington.
Justice Hill now coming off a 3-touchdown game. 2nd and goal. How about Washington today? 120 yards on 4 receptions.
And would have had much more had Mason Rudolph not overthrown him on 3 different occasions, 2 which turned into interceptions.
Rudolph, end zone too high for Washington. He was covered by Shelley, and there is a flag.
Pass interference, defense, number 8. The foul occurred in the end zone. Ball be placed at the 2-yard line, 1st down.
There's Shelley a little over-aggressive and handsy here. As you see them right there, that pull and tug. You'd like for him to do that with the backside hand so the officials can't see it.
Hill to the outside, using the stiff arm, reaching. And a touchdown for Oklahoma State. That drive took less than 90 seconds. The Cowboys are far from out of this.
If there is one offense in the country that has the firepower to strike and to come back from this type of deficit, it is the Cowboys. And what a risky play there by Hill. We saw a play earlier in the Texas and West Virginia game where the quarterback, Will Greer, was trying to extend it through the end zone. He fumbles, goes out the back of the end zone, and the ball was actually awarded to Texas. But Hill, showing the athleticism and the determination, what appears to be a touchdown as the officiating crew is reviewing the touchdown.
Every scoring play is reviewed. Dan Romeo in the white hat. They did not see anything upstairs. 13th touchdown of the season on the ground for Justice Hill. And now the PAT by Amendola is good. It is 42-20, 3:55 to go here in this third quarter. Oklahoma State looking for a comeback. Kansas State looking for bowl eligibility. Justice Hill and the Cowboys not going down so easy. Kansas State with a 42-20 lead on Oklahoma State. Wildcats bowl eligible with a win. If the Cowboys lose, any shot of a Big 12 championship game appearance is over. This time a squib kick to keep it away from Pringle. And Kansas State starts at its 31. Tuesday, we will unveil the latest college football playoff rankings, 7 Eastern on ESPN. Reese and the guys will break it down. We'll have reaction from committee chairman Kirby Hocutt. Alabama, big win against Mercer today. Clemson rolled over the Citadel. Miami squeaked one out against Virginia. How does Wisconsin move up into the top 4? You got Oklahoma in there. They were on top of Kansas at last check. Wisconsin did get a big win today against Michigan. Alex Barnes, he's got a touchdown today. And brought to the ground at the 38.
And if I'm one of the leaders on this Cowboys defense, my mindset and mentality would be right now for us to go out and get a takeaway. You've seen the Wildcats keep their team in this game, and by making sure, right, that they can do that. They forced 12 turnovers in the last 5 games, but today, not come up with any.
20 forced turnovers, second in the Big 12. K-State will bleed some clock. Play clock down to 5. Down to 2. Rushing 3, intended for Heath. And he's able to bring it in for a first down. Ahmad, Mike Gundy's teams at Oklahoma State, when you look at their defensive numbers, yards given up, sometimes those numbers are skewed because the offense plays at a breakneck pace. And they haven't always had the best defenses, but they've made up for that. His better teams have with what you said, takeaways. They've been opportunistic, and they've gotten the ball back for their offense.
Absolutely.
Meanwhile, Kansas State, the quintessential team that does not beat itself. A blitz. Heath, out of bounds near midfield.
I've been really impressed with the way that Skylar Thompson has settled into this game. You saw him there dissecting the defense with his pre-snap read, coming up to the line of scrimmage, and I believe he was telling them, hey, the blitz is coming, letting everybody know that pressure's coming and that he's got to get this ball out of his hand quickly. That was a great diagnosis of what the defense was doing, but an even better throw to pick up some good first down yardage.
He is 10 out of 13, 204 yards, 3 passing touchdowns. He's also run for 98 and a score. Barnes on the delay, slips a tackle, and trucks his man for a gain of 10 to the 41 of the Cowboys.
Running behind Winston Dimmel, that big fullback, two-time All-Big 12 performer. And right now, this offense is really wearing down the Oklahoma State defense.
38, Winston Dimmel, one of the unsung heroes of this offense. Had a couple of touchdowns last week. Barnes. Nothing there. Now, we knew Skylar Thompson was a ball of potential energy, and we've caught more than a glimpse of that potential going kinetic this afternoon.
He's got the mobility needed to extend plays through pocket movement. He's shown today he can escape, extend plays. But I've been most impressed with his ability to throw the football, something that coming into this game didn't appear to be one of the strengths of his game, but it is today.
Barnes up the middle, gashing this defense, takes it to the 20. A red zone opportunity for K-State.
They're going to let this run into the fourth quarter, and I don't blame them. Alex Barnes, and give this offensive line credit for the way they've been able to really lean in on this Oklahoma State defensive line, creating creases, falling right in behind their running back, and they are finding success through the air and on the ground.
The Wildcats came to Stillwater as almost a 3-touchdown underdog. They go to the fourth quarter up by more than 3 touchdowns. Thompson to Pringle has been the magic connection. In the diminishing daylight of Stillwater, Kansas State closing in on an 8th consecutive bowl appearance. With a win, the Wildcats would be bowl eligible. Oklahoma State entering the fourth quarter down by 22 at home, and right now it's the Wildcats driving. 1st and 10 from the Oklahoma State 20. Barnes thrown to the ground by Chad Whitener, the leader of that Cowboy defense, the middle linebacker out of Texas. We talked to him this week, and he told us he plays every down. He lives every moment in the memory of his older brother Charles, who collapsed and unfortunately died when Chad was just 4 years old and Charles was only 11. Dalvin Warmack split wide. They'll give it to the big fullback, Dimmel. Pulled to the ground by Cole Walterscheid. A gain of 8. It's 3rd and 2.
How about the creative play call there from Kansas State? You've got your running back and your fullback in the backfield. You motion out the running back and then hand it to the big fella up the middle. You mentioned he scored a couple of touchdowns, Anish, but those were under center when they just turn around and hand it to him. That time he almost got out as well, straight up the middle.
Yeah, those were goal line plunges. Nobody in the building expected that ball to go to Dimmel. Play clock running down, and Kansas State has to use its first time out of the half.
Timeout, Kansas State.
A big 3rd down coming up for the Wildcats. They've got a big lead early in the 4th. The sun dies early these days, and the sun's setting right now on Oklahoma State's hopes of getting to a Big 12 championship. They had to win out and then needed some help. And right now, the Cowboys backed up as Kansas State looks to tack on to a 22-point lead. It's 3rd and 3 for the Wildcats. Alex Barnes tripped up by Bundage, and it's 4th down. Big tackle. And now Matthew McCrane, the all-time leader in field goals at Kansas State, will come on to try to make this a 25-point game.
And this defense for Oklahoma State, they're going to need more of those stops, and they're going to need them quick and fast to be able to come back from this deficit. If they make this field goal here, it'll be a 4-score ball game. Now, this offense can do it. I'm sure there have been some quarters where they've put up 28 points. However, that is a difficult task.
33-yarder by McCrane, one of the best kickers in the country. He drills it. And now the question you have to ask yourself on the Oklahoma State sideline, plenty of time, yes, 12:51. Kansas State has been bleeding the clock pretty much this whole game. Does Oklahoma State have 4 possessions? Forget even for a minute, you got to stop Kansas State when the Wildcats get the ball. But will the Cowboys even have the ball 4 more times?
That's a great point, and who knows at this point in the ball game.
College football playoff rankings brought to you by Northwestern Mutual. Let's peek in at the top 10. Big wins for Bama, Clemson, Oklahoma on its way. Sooners with a win would clinch a spot in the Big 12 championship. Miami held off Virginia. Wisconsin remains unbeaten. Next week is going to be fun because you get Alabama-Auburn, which is essentially like a quarterfinal. If you end up with Oklahoma-TCU in the Big 12 championship, that is essentially a quarterfinal type game, at least for Oklahoma. Clemson-Miami certainly is a play-in game, assuming it's one-loss Clemson and undefeated Miami in the ACC championship. Those two will play, but that's barring a slip-up before that. So there's your expanded playoff format right there.
Yeah. I definitely would like to see it expanded, and this offense needs to expand their production right now. I asked the question earlier, had they had 28-point quarters, they did it versus Pitt, did it versus Baylor, and they did it in that shootout right here versus Oklahoma.
Hill close to a 1st down. Look at what Kansas State's defense has done to this prolific Cowboy offense. First catch for Jalen McCleskey. He is roped to the ground by Kirby, but it's enough for a first.
I'd like to see him get out of bounds there. You just got to be aware. You need every second you can possibly muster right now.
Rudolph steps up. Flushed. Floats one down the sideline. Dangerous throw. And incomplete for Washington.
I think Mason's doing a better job of extending plays, buying time. We've seen him today in the second half in particular shrug off some of the pressure that's been in his face. If he can continue to do that, that'll give him an opportunity to make some of those throws downfield that are needed.
On the draw, Hill. Tackled by Kirby and tanking. Now those two have been all over the field today for K-State. It's 3rd down.
I think you've got to give a lot of credit to this K-State defense. Like you said, they've been all over the field, and they've kept Justice Hill in check. They've done a great job of rallying to the football. He's been able to make some guys miss, but every time he does, there's 2 more white shirts waiting there to wrap him up.
Yeah, Hill at 97 yards. Kirby's got 10 tackles. Tanking with 8. On 3rd and 10. Rudolph for Aitman. And Marcel Aitman with a gain of 13. He's got a chance for a 1,000-yard season with a strong finish. Missed all of last year with an injury, and he's put himself on the radar of a lot of NFL scouts with a big senior year. Washington makes the catch. Pushed out of bounds by Shelley at the 35. They don't waste much time.
I'd say.
Earlier in this game, the Cowboys had a 19-second two-play scoring drive. Stoner tiptoes the sideline, out of bounds by the 30. Mason Rudolph today just has not really been able to get in to any sort of rhythm. And credit to this K-State defense. Rudolph sacked. Trey Deshawn, the high school powerlifting champion, getting Rudolph by the ankles.
And the nice rub up the belly there. Outstanding fourth sack of the day for this Wildcats defense. Rudolph there nearly escapes the pressure, but he couldn't get out of the reach of Trey Deshawn.
On third down, Lacey is open, broke the initial tackle, and picks up a Cowboy first down.
Pass complete to 15, Chris Lacey. Being good for a Cowboy first down and 10.
Lacey, the senior out of DeSoto, Texas. This is King. Nice pickup, setting up a second down at the 16.
And I want to correct myself. The clock is a continuing clock until inside of 2 minutes.
King again. And a 1st and 10 from the 11, so the Cowboys can still pick up a first down. Man down. It is Kendall Adams who had an interception in this game. Fourth-year junior from Fort Worth being attended to. And you wonder if he's cramped up a little bit. Now we'll monitor Adams. Let's check in quickly with Chris Cotter.
All right, guys, got an update on Navy, Notre Dame. Notre Dame wearing the Newt Rockne throwbacks, and Brandon Wimbush here to Kevin Stepherson for the score. 24-17, a close one, late going in the fourth quarter.
I know tradition trumps everything in college football. Did you see those Notre Dame unis?
I have not.
Oh, loved them.
Yeah.
Oh, loved them. You went to Texas, so you know all about, there is the classic scheme,
Yes,
right?
I do. You know, and it also, I think for players, it's good to see Kendall Adams being walked off the field, or helped off the field, I should say. But to your point, you're absolutely right. It's one of the greatest things to turn on, especially in a day and age where so many uniforms change, to turn on and to see a traditional look from one of the college football powers. And Notre Dame certainly.
No, this is a little new age now.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, yeah. Justice Hill bounces off his blocker and bumped out of bounds. 2nd and goal.
I can't
or
say.
second down, excuse me. Oklahoma State can still get a first down.
Manish, I can't say enough about the gap integrity of the Kansas State Wildcats. What do I mean by that? When you have a responsibility in the defense and you're supposed to be in the A gap, the B gap, the C gap, these players are not being moved easily out of their gaps. They're staying true to their assignment and what this defense is calling them to do, and then they are finishing plays. You haven't seen a lot of missed tackles from this Wildcats defense. They are playing some of their best ball tonight.
Rudolph to throw, end zone, and that is a touchdown for the Cowboys. James Washington, his second touchdown grab. And it makes it a 45-26 game.
Yeah, you're going to get a slant route out here from James Washington. And despite Duke Shelley being inside, he loses leverage to Washington, which makes that a very easy throw for Mason Rudolph to make. And great concentration and focus on the part of James Washington, who hauls that one in for a touchdown.
Mike Gundy told us Kansas State has been running a version of the same defensive scheme since Gundy played quarterback at Oklahoma State against Bill Snyder back in 1989, Snyder's first season for the Wildcats. But they have been sound. They've held the Cowboys in check. K-State less than 9 minutes away from becoming bowl eligible. Today, Skylar Thompson has been the danger. He has been the one who knocks. 200 yards through the air, 3 touchdowns passing, also a rushing touchdown, and almost 100 yards on the ground.
Yeah, he's been spectacular. A star has been born. I've been most impressed with his ability to do this, throw the deep ball. But he's also utilized his feet, needing 2 more yards to surpass 100 yards rushing. He's playing the best ball of his career in on a stage where he certainly has proven that he can handle it.
He struggled last week against West Virginia in his first career start. He's the 3rd different starting quarterback K-State has used this season. And let's see what Oklahoma State does here. If they try an onside kick, they will. And we've got a whistle before the kick. And a timeout by Bill Snyder.
Prior to the kick, second charge timeout, Kansas State.
That's a good timeout there by Snyder. Make sure he's got his right personnel in there. And all right, if you're Oklahoma State, there's 8:56 to go. You've had trouble defensively stopping K-State. Do you like the call to go for the onside kick at this juncture?
I do, and the timeout was perfect because typically when you go onside, you want your hands team on the field, meaning I get all of the guys that catch the ball the best, I put them out on a unit to prevent that from happening. But they weren't even lined up to field the onside kick there. More or less, have your hands team on the football field. So Kansas State doing the wise thing there by calling a timeout. You certainly don't want to give the ball back to this offense when you're ill-prepared to handle an onside kick. And I do like the call, Anish, and I wouldn't be surprised to see them either go back to it because at this point, you said it, the defense is struggling stopping this Wildcats offense, and you're not sure how many possessions you'll get with the way that they methodically milk the clock.
Oklahoma State is down 3 scores. And to get the ball back for the offense 3 more times, it's going to take some stops. But now listen, Kansas State, they've been moving the chains, picking up first downs, and they're content to water that clock all the way down to 10-5. First onside kick attempt for Oklahoma State this season. Should they go that route? Squib kick straight ahead. Zuber slides down at the 26. Now this is a big moment now for not just Oklahoma State's defense, but also for young Skylar Thompson. He's played so well. Can you make the plays with your feet, with your arm? You assume it's going to be a run-heavy offense right now for Kansas State. Can they put this game away?
Absolutely, and the Wildcats have an extensive run-pass option package where they actually give the play. It'll be a 3-pronged play where the quarterback has to get you into the right decision. So not only will his arms and his feet need to work this drive, but his mind will be a big part of whether he can make the right decision, hand the ball off, keep it, or even pass in certain situations.
He'll hand it off. This is Silman. And with that run, he goes over the 1,000-yard mark for his career. A former walk-on out of Tulsa, Oklahoma, right up the road.
That's the start to the drive that you want. a run that goes for a first down, and I thought it was a good decision by Skylar Thompson to hand off there. He put the ball in the hands of the right player, and Kansas State benefited greatly from it.
Back to Silman. A yard.
This is almost like a 4-minute offense situation, guys, where everybody in the building knows that Kansas State's going to run the ball. It's a gut check moment for this K-State offensive line and for the fullback, Winston Dimmel, who's one of the best in the country. And the first down play on the last possession, earlier in this possession where they were able to get a first down, was a great job at the point of attack. That last one is going to be more like what we're going to see with Dimmel leading through the hole.
Thompson, quarterback keeper, to the 41, and he's up over 100 yards rushing.
And that's going to be a frustrating play for this Kansas State offense, because you had Winston Dimmel and Isaiah Zuber on the same side blocking with two defenders for Oklahoma State. And Dimmel just got confused because Zuber stopped in front of the first one, so Dimmel worked up to the second level. Zuber then worked up to the second level as well, leaving an open man to tackle Skylar Thompson.
Cornerback Rodarius Williams a little shaken up. He'll come off the field. And a big 3rd and 5 for Kansas State. They pick up a first down. I mean, that's what, another 2 minutes they can eat up off the clock just by running the football and bleeding the clock.
I think you stick with what's been working. Go perhaps back to your run pass options and allow Skylar Thompson to do some magic.
Cowboys show blitz. Thompson, nothing there, and it's 4th down. Oklahoma State's defense gets the ball back for its offense.
Yeah, quarterback power. Justin Silman, who's had some good runs, missed his block and allowed this defense to be aggressive and attack Skylar Thompson. But I like the play call. You want to make sure that you can run the football here, and that's what the Wildcats were trying to do as they continue to try to get some clock.
We've got a timeout. I believe Oklahoma State has called a timeout. 6:39 left. Tonight, UCLA, USC, 8 Eastern on ABC. The two quarterbacks on top of Mel Kiper's draft board go head-to-head. Josh Rosen and Sam Darnold. We talked a lot about Kansas State special teams. Oklahoma State has 21 blocked kicks since 2013. Not that time. Stoner with the fair catch after a 43-yard punt by Nick Walsh. 6:32 left. Cowboy ball. Mike Gundy's team down 3 scores. Kansas State bowl eligible with a win. Oklahoma State can still get to the Big 12 championship game by winning out, and then they need help. They need Baylor, which has 1 loss in conference, to stun TCU next week. That's their most likely path. Cowboys have the ball from their own 17. Rudolph near sideline. Washington with a shoestring catch. A gain of 8 on the play. 7th reception for James Washington. One of just 3 players in conference history with 3 1,000-yard receiving seasons. McCleskey has the first down and gets out of bounds. Clock will still run. Rudolph, over 4,000 yards passing on the season. Downfield. Hits Aitman in stride. He takes it to the 5, but there's a flag at the 34-yard line of Kansas State.
Guys, I think this is going to be against Kansas State, but if you're a freshman corner, A.J. Parker, you can't get beat on the double move.
Holding defense, number 12 on an eligible receiver. That penalty is declined. Result of the play, first down.
It's a gain of 64. Aitman and Washington both over 100 yards receiving. Rudolph closing in on 400 yards passing. Justice Hill. Marked down at the 5. Cowboys have 2 timeouts, 5.5 to go. Get a score here, and all of a sudden, the comeback seems less and less improbable.
Zero coverage on the back end, man-to-man for Kansas State.
I'll throw it up to Aitman. He's 6'4", and covered well by Parker.
Yeah, it just appeared as though Aitman was kind of late on getting back to this ball. You've got to know when you got one-on-one coverage, as Roddy alluded to, on a redshirt freshman in A.J. Parker, that is your matchup. That is the favorable matchup for the Cowboys as they come back here on 3rd down. You would anticipate that the Wildcats, who show a lot of this on film, man-to-man coverage, that they'll give you those one-on-one matchups on the outside edge with these wide receivers.
This time for Washington. There is a flag on the play. He was covered by Shelley.
Pass interference, defense, number 8. The penalty occurred in the end zone. Ball replaced to the 2-yard line. First down.
1st and goal from the 2. Duke Shelley with an interception in this game. Had a pick 6 against the Cowboys last year. Rudolph to the end zone, and the Cowboys still have a pulse. (45-33), and Ahmad, do you go for 2 here? Don't necessarily have to.
No, I don't think so. And I think what's been most impressive is that's the 8th rushing touchdown for Mason Rudolph. It was a great decision. Typically, when they run that diamond set and formation that you just saw and they move the running back over, they go opposite. This time, they fake the opposite handoff, and Mason Rudolph keeps the football to score his 8th rushing touchdown of the year.
PAT good by Amendola. 4:55 left in regulation. It is a 9-point lead by Kansas State. The fans who've watched Oklahoma State this season have gotten their money's worth. Mike Gundy even told us they've had the excitement factor, they've brought the drama. Mason Rudolph has 30 wins, more than any Oklahoma State quarterback. 10 of those came with his team trailing in the 2nd half. And let's see if the Cowboys decided to go for an onside kick here. They do. Takes a big bounce, fielded by Kansas State at the 45. That was the kick you wanted. K-State got it.
Absolutely. And, you know, you want that bounce, and you want to get that big bounce on the, just as it crosses the line, and they were able to. That recovered by Superman today, Byron Pringle, who has had a fantastic game, 4 touchdowns, and he has made this Cowboys team pay for sure. And this young man is having the game of his life, and also celebrated his 24th birthday yesterday. And boy, this is quite the birthday present, the night that he's having.
Happy belated. Alex Barnes lost a yard, 2nd and 11. And we get a timeout.
Oklahoma State.
Mike Gundy and the
30-second
Cowboys
timeout.
have 1 timeout left. And you're essentially now going all in here. You're saying, okay, we got to get a 3 and out, get the ball back, score quickly, and then assess where you are.
I think it's the right move. You know, why sit on those timeouts when you still need 2 possessions? I think it's the wise thing to do here. And now you've really put all the pressure on your defense. They have not played well today. They've given up a lot of big plays over the top. And the success that the quarterback has had in the run game, Skylar Thompson, over 100 yards. Now is your time to try to right that wrong. If you can come back and get two efficient stops, you really can't turn the course of this game.
Right now, though, is that big pass play over the top, is that in the playbook right now?
No, I think you want to keep it on the ground, have them either use their timeout as you continue to try to milk this clock.
Thompson will throw. Under pressure. And down he goes, back inside the 40. The ball came out. Oklahoma State saying they have it. And it appears the Cowboys do have the football.
On the field is that the quarterback had fumbled the ball prior to being down by rule. It was recovered by the defense.
The Cowboys get the ball. Thompson is still down. And remember, he is the 3rd quarterback to start a game for Kansas State this season. There is not much depth at that position. The ruling was that the ball was out before Thompson goes down. And you can see it before that knee goes down. That ball is out. And oh boy, what a turn of events for Oklahoma State.
Anish, you asked the perfect question at the perfect time. Do you take a shot downfield? This is why you don't. You want to make sure you put the ball in the hands of a running back. Now you could have potentially cost your team a win. And now perhaps your player of the game, Skylar Thompson, is now laying down on the turf. Not a wise decision on the part of offensive coordinator Dana Dimel. This play could really turn the favor and the momentum to the side of the Cowboys with this explosive offense.
Roddy, last week at the end of the first half, we saw something similar out of Kansas State. Questionable play calling. Bill Snyder even admitted after the game it was a mistake. Late in the first half against West Virginia, an ill-advised screen pass was intercepted, and it led to a West Virginia touchdown.
Yeah, I think here like Ahmad said, you just run the football. You go with the conservative route, and you make Oklahoma State burn their timeout. You're exactly right about last week. You know, it was kind of a head-scratcher then, and then the decision to drop back to pass. There's so many things that can go wrong unless you hit them for a touchdown. You know, what really is the benefit to throwing the ball in that situation?
And that's not a good sign. Skylar Thompson hobbling to the sideline. There is not much depth. They've got Hunter Hall and Nick Ast. Both are walk-ons. Rudolph hits Stoner. First down at the 26.
Great movement in the pocket there by Mason to buy time.
Washington out of bounds inside the 15. 412 yards passing for Mason Rudolph. Stoner, touchdown!
What a turn of events. Oh my goodness. And they found the matchup they were looking for as they went to Dylan Stoner on the strong safety, Denzel Goolsby. And it was a winning matchup indeed. And Mason Rudolph saving his best football for last as they go for 2 points here.
To make it a 3-point game. Rudolph, end zone, picked off by Tanking. Tanking's gonna try to run it back for 2. And finally brought down at the 40 by the quarterback, Rudolph. But there is plenty of time. 4:02 left. The Cowboys have a timeout. And Oklahoma State right now in the midst of a stirring fourth-quarter comeback.
Mike Gundy said yesterday, where we really try to separate ourselves offensively is creating matchups, particularly getting our top-notch wide receivers on safeties. This time here, Dylan Stoner is a young man, a freshman from right up the road in Tulsa, Oklahoma. They really like what he brings to the table. He is a freak athlete, and that is a mismatch. And they found it. Mason Rudolph went to it, and it paid off. And here on the 2-point conversion, I've talked about it all day. Trent Tanking, who actually caught that ball with a bandage on his left hand. We saw him leave the game earlier. I assume that's what it was for because he didn't have that starting the game. Comes back, gets an interception, dropping right underneath coverage, and the wide receiver was wide open behind him. He made an individual play that could have put this game in a situation where Oklahoma State would be going for a field goal rather than a touchdown.
And guys, Kansas State's able to recover this onside kick. Skylar Thompson just went to the locker room, and I was told last week by Colin Klein, the quarterback's coach, that if Skylar Thompson went down, it would be Hunter Hall that's going to take the snap. So expect to see Hall come out with the offense if Kansas State's able to recover this onside kick.
Well, here's the question, Ahmad. You got 4:02 left. You've got to
Kick it.
timeout. Why do an onside kick?
And especially Skylar Thompson goes out of the ball game. I let this one fly, and I tell my kickoff coverage unit to make a play.
That's what they'll do. Amendola sends it deep. Kansas State will run it out. And Zuber tackled at the 15. If you're just joining us, Kansas State had a 42-13 lead with less than 4 minutes to go in the third quarter. Skylar Thompson, who's the third starting quarterback used by the Wildcats, limped off the field after fumbling on K-State's last drive. And enter Hunter Hall, seeing game action for the first time, trying to preserve this 5-point lead. And he is split out wide. They'll go Wildcat. That is Reuter in motion. Alex Barnes with a short gain, second down.
I like the play call here. I think you stay in this look. Number one, you have somebody that can secure the football as Oklahoma State appears to have called their third and final timeout.
30-second timeout.
But you saw the previous play where Skylar Thompson dropped back to pass, fumbles the football. I like what they're doing here. Now the question is, can they get a first down? Because everybody in the building knows that Alex Barnes is not going to throw this football. So if I'm the Cowboys, I'm teeing off on the run, I'm pinning my ears back, and I'm going to the fullback because that's who they're going to run behind is number 38, Winston Dimmel.
If Oklahoma State were to complete the comeback, it would be the biggest comeback in school history. Down 29 late in the third quarter. And now K-State down to quarterback number 4 on its depth chart, Hunter Hall, the sophomore out of Clearwater, Kansas, seeing game action for the first time in his career. Again, they'll split him out wide and go Wildcat with Alex Barnes. No motion, Reuter. Barnes to the 19. It brings up third down And if you're Kansas State, I mean, can you even really throw the ball here? You can't, right?
I don't think you even take a chance. Right now, they're doing exactly what they're supposed to do. And if you're Oklahoma State and you're this offense, you're thinking to yourself, we're going to get another shot. This defense, as I said earlier, has not played its best football, but they have saved it for the end. A third down stop here rights all of the wrongs they've made prior to this point.
Again, the Wildcat. Barnes. There is no room. Devoured in the backfield at the 17. It's 4th down. The Cowboys will get the ball back with a chance to improbably win this game.
This is amazing. If you left early, wherever you are listening on the radio, they're thinking to themselves, oh my goodness, as this game here has certainly changed momentum, and it has shifted to the Cowboys sideline with now one of the most dynamic offenses coming out on the field, and a touchdown wins this game.
Nobody has more blocked kicks since 2013 than Oklahoma State. They don't send the cavalry. Stoner. And the Cowboys will start at their own 45. Oklahoma State trailed by 29 late in the 3rd quarter, looking to pull off the biggest comeback win in school history. And this has been the type of season for the Cowboys where popcorn needs to be on standby. They seem to do this every other week.
Oh my. The hairs on the back of my neck are rising. I can only imagine what the players are feeling right now in this intense matchup.
Rudolph has found a rhythm, and that one incomplete for Washington. Second to drop by the usually sure-handed senior.
That one hurts, because you talk about getting Rudolph and keeping Rudolph into a rhythm. The same rhythm he came off of that we have not seen out of him this ball game in the previous drive. If you're Washington, you need to make that catch for your team.
Five-man pressure. High throw, and it's 3rd down. Cowboys out of timeouts. This is 4-down territory. Kansas State, bowl eligible with a win, looking to hold on. Underneath through the hands of Justice Hill, and it's 4th in the ball game.
You talk about pressure. You talk about adversity. And if you claim to be one of the more potent offenses in the country, which this team on paper is, now is your time to shine on 4th down. The secondary for the Wildcats has backed up, allowing the cornerbacks to be able to peek inside and to see where the ball is going. And they've got a 2-shell look as they'll get some support from their safeties.
On 4th down, Rudolph. Too high for Aitman. No flag on the play. And K-State with a stand.
The drop from Washington. And I know he's made numerous plays today to keep them in the ball game, including 2 touchdowns. But that was the throw that I believe this offense needed, that Rudolph needed to get into the groove and the rhythm they needed to continue to move the ball downfield. What an effort from this defense for Oklahoma State and this offense. But it appears at this point that the Wildcats will squeak by with a victory here in Stillwater.
3 years in a row now, these two have played a barn burner. Skylar Thompson back in. They're not asking him to do much. He'll hand it off. Cowboys trying to rip that ball out from Barnes. Clock will run. Cowboys out of timeouts.
And guys, going back to that last play for Oklahoma State, this has been a day where, especially in the first half, Mason Rudolph missed high a lot. And then when the game on the line, when your blood's pumping a little bit more, the adrenaline's going, once again, misses high. And it's a frustrating thing for Oklahoma State, because if you told them that less than 2 minutes their offense is on the field with a chance to go down and win it, they would take that 10 times out of 10. Offense just not able to get it done this time.
Great point, Roddy. There were missed opportunities and missed throws in the first half. There's Barnes. It'll bring up 3rd down. The clock will continue to run. Kansas State looking to win in Stillwater for the first time since 1999. Wildcats headed to bowl eligibility for an 8th consecutive season and for the 19th time under Bill Snyder. All other head coaches in K-State history have taken the program to a bowl game twice. Thompson, the knee in victory formation, and Kansas State holds on in Stillwater. They're bowl eligible for an 8th straight season. And at 78 years young, Bill Snyder continues to work his magic.
That was an incredible effort on the part of the Wildcats, and what a fun one to watch for sure, as Oklahoma State falls short in the closing minutes.
Cowboys rallied from 29 down in the second half. They got the ball back down 5 late, but K-State's defense came up with the stop. Final score from Stillwater: Kansas State 45, Oklahoma State 40. Off we go to Oxford, Mississippi.